I've given myself time, yeah.
And I love the fact that you just like ushered me so comfortably into this.
No. I mean,
I didn't sleep last night. I was tired.
Really?
I literally was up till like 1 a.m.
I'll be honest with you. I often say to people, the greatest story of flying I have is the first one. But the person I flew with the first time has not taken a quarter of flights I've taken in my life. But that's the person who introduced me to flying. Literally, they had won even the competition. So I was not even the competition winner. But when we talk about the flying as a whole, I have more experiences on that. In fact, the same person was enjoying beer when I'd never even drank anything in my life. I'd never known any alcohol. I knew alcohol from afar. My uncles would drink, I have brothers who drink. I'd never tasted alcohol. I never knew that I could be in the industry for that matter. But I think I've also overtaken them on that.
So now, when did the switch happen?
I'm
curious to know. Because
no, let's start the way you wanted to start, and then you can have, you'd have many sound bites on this one.
Super excited.
No. But okay, so I don't think that it's the switch. I don't think it's the switch. I was excited because we were talking about brands. Now you're taking me back to my personal life. Okay. Yeah. So look, I think instead of saying the switch, I would rather probably talk about Thami as a third person. Who is Thami? And
apart from what Google tells us, of course.
Yeah, because Google doesn't tell you the truth. The Google tells you what information people give, right? And I'm not against it. It's a good search engine. Before next time, managing from a Gmail account and they say no, you don't like us. But one thing people don't really know about Thamsanqa is a God-fearing guy. There is nothing, and I want to be upfront about this, there is nothing that has happened that is viewed as an achievement or celebration or to be celebrated in my life that I've never seen the hand of God on. Why do I say so? I've met many, many qualified people. I've met many exceptional people. By the way, I have a difference in saying the qualified and the certified. There are people who have certificates, but they don't have the qualification, because I've always believed it's God who qualifies you, right? So there are people who have degrees, who have everything, but they don't have the opportunities I have. And when I look at that, honestly, if I had to sum my life up from birth, from my mother's story about how I was born, I do see the hand of God. My mom tells me a story that I was born and she was alone. My mother cut my own cord. Yeah. There was no one in the house, right? You can imagine what a woman would go through in giving birth at the same time. The baby needs to be cleaned. You need to cut the cord. And she knew the basics because my grandmother was a midwife. So she would talk about what she does at work. So if I don't see the hand of God from birth till now, then I'm really pretentious about my life. And that's the true story. If there's anything, you can take everything away from me. But if you can't take God, everything that I've lost will come back.
Wow.
Yeah. All of it. If not better.
That's such a profound way of looking at it.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I've never been given an opportunity to say easily, because questions come across as achievements. People want to say, oh, you do this, you do that. I was talking to somebody at the gym that I've never prayed for an interview like this one, right? As in, what do you want to say, right? And I asked God, what do you want me to say? And he answered me at the gym. I was talking to this guy and then I got the answer this morning, and he said, if you want to go and talk about yourself, you'll be boasting. But if you go and tell them how far and how much you've seen me in you, then you'd have done the interview well. Yeah. So anything you can ask me, I will tell you on each step where I've seen God. On each step.
Sure.
Coming here, I saw him. I had never been here. The address you gave me was just at the entry point here, Ubuntu crawl down the road. And then I said, okay, anyway, let me just go on Google.
Yes.
I will still get the address. When you didn't pick the call, I didn't panic that I won't find the place.
Yes.
I knew that I was around the place, right? So when I got it, I wasn't worried. I saw you trying to fetch me with an umbrella, and I was laughing because it's raining, right?
It's a rainy night in Josie.
Okay, so if it's raining and I'm not seeing God in the rain, then I mustn't see God, I mustn't cry to God when there's drought. because this rain is a blessing for the food and the crops that need to be developed. Okay? So if I now think that I'm a special guy and I'm going to melt in this, I must be walking through it and I'm saying, somewhere in Free State, in KwaZulu-Natal, crops are being planted that I'm going to be eating because of this rain. So I'm happy about it. I don't mind to get wet. Why?
Yeah.
It's part of it. Yeah. So I have no issues. It's God.
You're so profound, Thami. I think, you know, what the weird part is that I was so super anxious about actually, because I know that your level of intellect, I'm pretty certain. What's your IQ score, actually?
I've never checked. I don't
You've
know.
never-
I don't know if I have any, actually.
Well, based on a person who's, you know, obviously liaised with you, you know, once or twice, and I do believe that you're highly intelligent.
Wow, okay.
Able to interact with people of all walks of life.
Okay.
And maybe that's why I also sat there, and obviously this having been my first rodeo,
Yeah.
and embarking on a huge project, and I
Yeah.
just thought, you know, it would be only fitting to have someone of your magnitude, because I do regard you quite highly. And that's not me schlopping up, but just, you know, being
Yeah.
honest about
Yeah.
the fact that this was a very a nerve-wracking type of situation that I was...
You can call me 35 times. I would still be happy to be here, and I'm honored to be the first, and it will only get bigger, you know. And I'm glad you have the tenacity to pursue it, because platforms, we need all types of platforms. We need all conversations. They enrich us in different ways. So you think you were anxious. I was anxious too.
Sure.
But I needed to remember that I need to remember that there's nothing. This was ordained at a certain point, and if it is ordained at a certain point, then it needs to be done. And that's my look at it. No pride, no proud, nothing.
Thank you.
No.
And for taking your professional hat off, because...
Yes, no professional head.
A couple of questions, obviously, that may we pour drinks. We're just gonna... Thami,
Sure.
you're not having...
No, I'm not having anything.
You know what's so weird? Because in your eyes, you always see yourself as very average, right? Until you hear what people have to say about you.
Okay.
And, you know, you're oblivious to it. You're like, oh, no, I'm just an ordinary person. Then someone comes to you and says, actually, you are of a particular stature. I mean, I Googled you. Okay, I know you, but I Googled you. I actually did a in-depth Google. Not that it gave me too much. Google lies all the time. But the fact that you are a whiskey connoisseur, you are the first distiller of whiskey in South Africa, the first black man to bring. You understand, that makes me proud to be in the skin that I'm in.
That's why I say that. Yeah, well, if we talk about achievements based life, we will get a lot of things wrong. Mm-hmm. Achievement based life is what I define as the birth of celebrities. We now fail to celebrate. We create humans to celebrate, not the achievements, to inspire. All right. I think the duty of everybody on earth is to inspire somebody to be better. That's me, right? Do I succeed on that? Not every day, but I think it's a duty, and a duty, it's like work. You do miss the call sometimes, and you miss the mark sometimes. But to be honest with you, the greatest inspiration for me is not on all of those things. That's why I don't like to talk about things that one achieves. I'm grateful to talk about who you are, what challenges you, what opportunities do you see. For me, that's better, because in achievements we create demigods, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we create demigods, and I have no right now to wear old flip-flops in the mall. I mean, I stay next to two malls.
You have no right, no.
Now I'm like, this guy.
You must show up, it's the brand.
But no.
You are the brand.
No. Do you know that the greatest brands that have ever lived, sometimes you don't have pictures of? They've never appeared. Shaka is a brand.
Oh, of course.
We still have an artistic impression of what he looked like, right? And as legend has it, I'm not seeing the Zulu nation dying tomorrow.
Never.
Right? Okay? So Insai is a brand. You know? So, and I'm literally using African heroes intentionally, because we only have artistic impressions of who they look like, which is not I mean, with all due respect, the Zulu monarch cannot wholeheartedly define what Shaka looked like. And yet they're descendants of the same man. So brands by appearance mean nothing, but brands by heritage mean a lot.
talking about that, I'm going to steer the conversation.
Sure,
Where-
sure.
I know you're Zulu. Where were you born? Where were you bred?
And I'm not entirely Zulu.
Tell us. I want to hear this part because we always affiliate you with that side of the nation. Please tell us, where were you born?
Okay, so
Family.
one of the most funny things. So I was born in KwaZulu Natal,
Okay,
and
very
that's
good.
where, and that's the first thing that I think heritage defines the brand, right? Better than personalities as we do it, or images as we do it now. My surname is Malawian, and people find it because Koso Banda is such a common surname in South Africa. There are many people that would be Banda somewhere. You know a Banda somewhere, right?
Exactly.
And it's Malawian, right? So my grandfather was Malawian, and he married a half Indian, half Zulu.
Interesting.
All right. So for me to be born in KwaZulu Natal and be exposed to isiZulu as part of the first languages I could speak doesn't actually encapsulate the person, because in our house we spoke another language indirectly, because my grandfather was Malawian, and we got the basics of the language. We observe the culture up to today. Him being married to a half Indian, half Zulu makes us to incorporate and embrace part of the Indian culture. I mean, one of the things that you find funny at home is if we have a gathering, and it doesn't have to be a ceremony, just an ordinary gathering, if we are all there, you would find insima, which you guys call pap, fish, which we call somba in our language, and then
Somba.
and then you have biryani, okay, all in one setting, because we are trying to embrace all the cultures that we have.
Yeah.
I remember when my grandmother met my then girlfriend, who eventually became a wife.
Yes.
She offered her a sari as a gift,
Really?
and yet my grandmother's surname is Nzuza, so she's half Zulu, half Indian. So if you look at me, from the time I was born, I was never raised Zulu. I was raised African.
Wow.
If there's only limitation they did was to raise me African, the closest they came to a global citizen, we were just raised continentally. So it has never been strange for me to have friends in Cameroon, which I still do have. Friends in Zimbabwe. I'm not saying Zimbabwean friends who are in South Africa. I mean a friend in Zimbabwe that I can get into a mode of transport to visit. I have friends in Malawi. I have friends in Kenya. I have friends, and some of them through work, some of them through personality. Why? Because from day one, we were made to understand that we live amongst Zulus, we speak their language, we've learned their culture, we have friends who are Zulus, but we are not.
So basically, you're a global citizen. Let's just.
I embrace that now.
Yes,
And
yeah.
I embrace that now, and it's a wish that my kids could take that. And you know what? I don't teach them.
How many kids do you have?
Whoa. I always say to people,
Give us a round figure. What did you know of?
I always say that when somebody asks me about my children, I always say, I have a number of the ones that I know of. And they say, why? Are you promiscuous? And I say, no. But if somebody pops up somewhere, and again, it's going to go to your favorite point about stories on IQ. If somebody pops up somewhere and says, I have a kid with him, and the kid is 25 years old, at my age, it fits to have a 25-year-old, right?
Naturally.
By the time I dispute and say, no, it's not my kid, and I do DNA tests, I've accepted that I slept with that individual 25 years ago, right?
Sure.
So life is like that.
Yeah.
How many kids do I have? Biologically, I have 5.
Lovely.
How many kids do I have? This is what I normally answer. Each and every day, I have a potential to be a father on somebody. So I don't limit kids I have as a question to children I biologically father. I open that to everybody whom I come across, and I have a responsibility, not an opportunity, responsibility to be a father to. The same way I meet friends that convert themselves to brothers eventually. It's the same attitude. So I have a mindset that says, why sleep with an 18-year-old when I'm 44, turning 45? Because that's my child.
Yeah.
I have that mindset. I don't see that as a babe. I see them as a baby.
And it's funny how you mentioned that. I was going to sidetrack and go into that conversation about pedophilia and how the shape of the world is changing based on that outlook. And you being a man of stature, would be one to speak up against those kind of things. And I actually like that, and I commend you, because a lot of men don't actually see a problem with, you know, the age barrier and looking at as a child is a child, an adult is an adult. And that for me says a lot about the man that you are.
No. This is why I like podcasts, because you can have a seat.
Of course, yes. Drink up. Drink up.
So let me be honest with you. Our society has been killed by what we define as rights, because we have forgotten values.
Yeah.
We've always had values. Rights were an issue of access. Values have been a way of living.
Yes.
Right? What is a value? A value is understanding that I'm of a woman. I have my grandmother, whom I love so much. She's no more, but I keep my grandmother everywhere. Because if she wasn't there, I possibly could not be there.
Yeah.
I have a mom. I have a sister. I have 2 daughters. By calculating that alone, look at how many women I have influence over in my space. I've not spoken about colleagues. I've not spoken about those that I regard as sisters out there, right? So it is my responsibility, first and foremost, to fit in within every category of these people. Every age mate of my mom, I'm their son. Every age mate of my grandmother, I'm their grandchild. Every age mate of my sister, I'm their brother. Every age mate of my kids is my child. Now, my firstborn is 29. Wow. And if I showed up with a 29-year-old girl right now, everybody would be saying, exactly. Oh yeah, no, I will pay to. But who am I saying my son must date? Yeah. And yet I want to blame my son when he now wants to date my age mates because I say, you want cougars. But I'm not occupying the space which I should. Right? So I love the question about kids. And whenever I answer it, people think about the promiscuous version, not understanding the responsibility and the accountability with it. That I'm a father to every child I come across. I am. And I'm not a father by choice. I'm a father by demand. Yeah. So when that person comes through, they do not need to see the father in me. No, they have to feel the father in me. Because some of them honestly have not been fathered, not because the father ran away.
They are daddy issues somewhat.
Yeah, and sometimes he didn't run away. He just passed on. He just passed on.
And then she had to fill the void.
And somebody has to fill the void. Yes. And sometimes it's not about the monies we pay. It's about the ear you offer.
And the presence.
That's all, right? So I have many children. Every day I give birth to one. Yeah.
Which brings me to ask you a question about what keeps you up at night? What actually, when you want to go to bed and there's that one thing that keeps ringing in your mind that won't allow you to get some shut eye, what is that one thing?
The love of family. All right? And I'll tell you why. In my thinking, and people are different out there, I've often believed, like I told you in the beginning, my life has always been about a hand of God somewhere, right? And God has a family mindset.
True.
After everything he did, he then said, this is good, but it's not good enough. A man has to be in charge.
Yes.
A man comes through, he says, this is good, but it's not good enough. A woman has to be there. You know what I mean? And then a family is born, right? So because of that nature, I worry that when I watch news, when I'm at work, the values of family are lost. All right? So why does it keep me up at night? I've been given the smallest nucleus of a community called wife and kids. Right? Smallest. And yet it has the potential to be the biggest by virtue of how many people they would eventually touch. So I don't worry about my kids being exposed to all ills of society. I worry about my kids becoming solutions of ills of society. That keeps me up at night. What did I do today to make them aspire to be those people? And I tell you now, in my nucleus, in my smallest part, literally where I'm called dad, it's the toughest job. Because there are conversations I can't have with my own sons.
How so?
Because society makes it like that.
Okay. Please elaborate.
So for example, if I'm going to say to my son, let's talk about, so in the order, the first 2 children I have are boys. So my sons have a huge gap in between them, age gap.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to say to my sons, men are not trash.
Subjective.
Correct. They would come with stats to challenge my statement.
Yeah.
And then I would say, do you know that the responsibility of every man in the house is to take out the trash?
Natural.
By virtue of being associated with trash, it doesn't make us trash.
Trash.
It just means we are people who are responsible to take it out where it needs to be collected and it's disposed accordingly, right? So most of us, because we are around it,
Yeah.
people think we are it. The job of us as men, and I'm talking to them, right?
Yeah.
Is that we showcase that we are around it, but we are not the thing.
Yeah.
So my kids will not have that understanding because they are already labeled.
Because society.
Thank you. You've just agreed with me
Yes.
that it's the
Coming back to the
mindset.
society
It's the mindset of a
conversation.
society.
Yes.
I said to a certain lady 2 weeks ago, continue to do all these things that you think are proper and good for women. And I love them because I have daughters. But be careful if they come at an expense of a boy child when yours grows up. When yours grows up. You see, it's nice when you do it to somebody else's
Societal
boy.
imbalance.
You know when you do it to somebody else's boy, it is nice. But wait until it's your boy who can't eat, who can't get out of bed, who is going through depression over a girl who dumped him.
Sure.
A girl. We're not talking about money. We're not talking about society pressures. We're talking about a woman who has dumped him. When it is you, when we tell you he is suffering, guys, find a way to meet each other halfway and sort things out. Maybe he didn't understand how to articulate love to you. Maybe he couldn't receive your love. There's a misunderstanding. And we're not saying stay where you don't belong. No, we're not saying that. We're saying let the exit interview be as exciting as the incoming interview. You know what I mean?
That would be quite an interesting concept to grasp.
You know why? Because if we look at life on the perfect capacity of writing people off, we will eventually have no one.
Truth.
So I say, let's view society with the eye that doesn't want us to come back 50 years from now and address the needs of a boy child because he got suppressed 50 years ago.
Sure.
So right now what we are creating are perfect systems to do that. So let me give you an example. If I'm sitting down with my children, my wife is here, my kids are here, 2 sons and 2 daughters in that order. The vote in the house is split to 3-3. All right?
Yes.
It's 3 men against 3 ladies. And we are watching a story of an abusive man. And this woman is fighting for her rights and mobilizes society so that women can speak up. Okay? Great story. But why is it perpetuating the narrative that we already see? Why can't she be the woman who fights for this guy to get help, that he becomes a better person?
Because some things can't be fixed, I'd say.
If
It's past trauma, cannot be undone.
Yeah, and I agree, and I don't want to get to the societal politics, but let me sum it up this way. See, down the road here is Nelson Mandela's house. Well, they call it Winnie Mandela's house. I always look at them as a family. I can tell you now that when Nelson Mandela was arrested, he had friends who were not in the ANC. He had people that he knew that were not in the ANC, but who believed in what he was doing, but they did not want to be in the forefront. When he got arrested, I'm sure they said amongst themselves, at the very least,
Yeah.
what an idiot. He has a law degree, he's functioning in a law firm, he has a career, he's married to a nurse, everything works. You gotta look at a lawyer in those years, look at the nurse in those years. They had a perfect life to live, all right? And look at him now, he's in jail. But when he got out of jail, and nobody doubted that this is an incoming president, right?
Yes.
Do you know what those guys would have said to him if they met him? We knew you were right.
Yeah, obviously.
Society is pretentious when they create a system that punishes you, and 30 years later or 20 years later, it comes back to convict you. So I'm not saying that I have daughters, man. I'm interested in them having all platforms of equality, but it shouldn't come at the expense of their brothers. What am I saying about my own house? What am I saying about in my own house? I am not saying that my daughters can't paint because my sons should paint. I'm saying my sons and daughters can agree on what the color of the house would be like before we talk about who keeps the brush.
But now that you touched on that,
he's gonna take me out to another.
Because you're talking about the boy child.
Yeah.
Now, honestly speaking, if things remain the way that they are societally, as it stands, what do you think the boy child is going to become 10 years from now? What are we looking at? What is the ideal picture looking like?
10 years from now, it won't be that bad. And I don't want to be a prophet of doom. I'm a big optimist. But I just want us to go back to simple basics. All of us here, at some point in our lives, have a male and a female in the role of us existing. And I'm saying that without being sexist. You know, you have a mom, you have a dad, and I respect humanity across. You have a mom, you have a dad, you have an aunt, you have an uncle. All of us in society as a whole, not only in our individual lives, we have a role to play. Okay? And those roles are not meant to make us superior than the other. They are meant to complement each other. If what we are doing does not address the human value or net worth, we will always go on a vicious cycle of readdressing a basic thing of how does humanity relate, which is stupid.
I'm sorry. We're gonna have to edit this.
That's
part
fine.
Out. Can I tell you why?
Yeah.
I was going into you were going into a very deep conversation about the LGBT.
Yeah.
We're gonna edit this.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I feel very strongly about the ABC GPV squad, and I'm like, what is going to happen to the men that we need to be men for our kids? What's going to happen to the girls who are supposed to be girls and wives? And it's a mess.
Do you know why? Because the ones who have an opportunity to be an advocate of reality, we don't want to tell that truth. Not to tell that truth.
Because we're going to be what is the word called? They don't sanction you. They cancel you. They cancel society.
So let me give you an example. Generally, African people got exposed late to counseling.
Sure.
You lose a loved one, you bury them.
You keep it moving.
You move on. You know? But how many kids in a female-headed household know that this lady, whom they call their mom, who is now called a widow, used to just have intimate conversations with the gentleman who has passed on around 3 o'clock in the morning.
Sure.
And those conversations are the ones that were the fuel for this woman to go to work. How do I know that? My grandmother was a widow. My grandfather died when I was 11. And when I sat down with that widow over the years, talking to her, there was a point when she was shunned by her own kids because she became an alcoholic.
Because she needed something to.
She needed something.
Yes.
But because I was a grandchild who used to sleep on the floor and on the baby cot when I was growing up with them, up to now, I still do remember some of the conversations that my grandmother and grandfather had around 3, 4 in the morning. Because I used to wake up and hear these people talking and I think they never sleep. Then a couple of hours later you hear a rooster somewhere. So by age now, I now know the times, what would have been the time. So what was taken away from my grandmother was not the husband. It wasn't the man of the house. It was a companion. But if you went to her children and said, allow her to date for companionship, because that, no one can live without compassion. Do you know that you need to be compassionate to yourself? And if you can't be compassionate to yourself, you can't be a companion to anyone.
You can't.
So everybody needs companionship.
Did that change your outlook or your vision of what love or ideally having a partner is or should be?
If I die today, my wife can date tomorrow.
Really?
Yes. Yes. And I will still tell you, the only reason why I would say to her, don't bring him home, as into our house,
Yes.
is not because I have an issue with him.
It's respect for the whole.
Not even.
built,
Not even. It's because I love my wife enough that even in my grave, I don't want her to be ridiculed by people. It has nothing to do with me. I am not there.
So what, do you believe in love or companionship or both?
I believe that love, because God is love.
Okay.
But the character of God is compassion.
But in
And
the
compassion-
human species, in this day and age, have we been tainted by what happens around us that hinders us from loving the way that Christ loved the church?
We are too ambitious as people.
Okay.
Ambition drives you beyond reality. So let me give you sure. We can have an off chat about this. Let me give you my favorite verse. Godliness and contentment is great gain. It's Paul who says that. Why godliness and contentment? Godliness is not a person, you're not godly just because you think you're righteous or holy. You're godly because you recognize, it's a word used for association. You are godly because you affiliate with God. All right? And if you affiliate with God, you'll always be content, man, in the midst of difficulties. Right? I have a friend. In fact, he's a confidant of mine. Who drives a car that he has been driving for 18 years.
Sorry. Wow.
Right? Yeah.
Good maintenance.
First start, outside, it starts. And he drives it. All
What
right?
brand of car is this? I really want to know.
For the sake of them not advertising, we won't tell.
Will tell me, oh,
Smart,
off
smart,
camera,
smart,
off
smart
camera,
enough,
off
smart enough to
camera.
catch the rest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny enough, he visited me on Sunday. And we were talking about the car. And then he drove off. On Monday morning, I was starting my car and I went to gym. And when I came back, I gave him a call. And I said, hey, by the way, so and so. And I almost pronounced his affectionate name.
Yes.
So I don't care. We call each other Mambo. So I said, Mambo, which is Swahili for Lord, but he's not Swahili. He's actually a Sowetan from Dobsonville. So I said, hey, Mambo, by the way, how many kilometers has your car done?
Yeah.
He says to me, why? I said, because I'm measuring mine. And then, because mine is 10 years old.
Yes.
And then he says, 300 and then I said, then my car is young.
Sure.
Right? No, he said 400 and I said, then I said, my car is young. It's not even on 300. He says, okay. I said, but what I've noticed, this is me now commenting first as if I've experienced. He has experienced. It's 18 years, me now I'm 10 years. I said, but if you service your car at a reputable place, and then all other small maintenance, tires, whatever, it will keep you going.
Yes.
It's like your body.
Yeah.
You age, but you don't necessarily get sick. But you take care of it.
Yeah.
But what does society teach us? Thami Banda, because it may appear somewhere in certain platforms, he must come with a certain brand of car. Why that car if my grandchildren can't go to school? They are not there. I don't have them.
Yeah.
Maybe let me even challenge you. Why that car if I can't guarantee a start for my great-grandchild? Why that car?
Keeping up with the Joneses, I think.
Why that house? Why that suburb? If I can't guarantee that upon my passing, the house will exist.
Yeah.
Why? That's why I am saying that we've lost these values of humanity because of how society perceives us, and we take that because we like the likes than the reality of it. South Africa doesn't have entrepreneurs. I've not seen one. I've seen self-employed people, and that's a huge difference.
So
an
what
entrepreneur.
what would you say entrepreneurs are?
Yeah. And
Financially blossoming?
No.
Or, well, what is it? Please elaborate. I'm curious.
firstly, maybe before we get excited about defining the entrepreneur, by just defining self-employed people, you will discover that we don't have entrepreneurs. So let's start with self-employment. You know, this phrase is very politically relevant, but it's societal aloof. Let me give you an example. You are self-employed, meaning you are employed, but by self.
By self.
Which means when you are not there, there's no business.
Of course.
So, if we consider Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, entrepreneurs, that they don't even need to be in the office for operations to run. Where now your tender document is in your boot, it's submitted by your cousin who grovels for you on time, it is completed by Thami somewhere. Yeah, sure.
Interval,
Okay.
but we'll continue.
Yeah, no, we are continuing. Okay,
We'll continue.
can we?
We've got another 30 minutes now.
Okay, cool. So,
Are you recording?
yeah.
Oh, are we running? Okay.
So, if Steve Jobs can have his, and yeah, we must give you a chance of your questions. If Steve Jobs, excuse me, has a business, he's long gone. Apple is still innovating phones, MacBooks, and all of that,
Yeah.
right?
He's left a legacy for his family.
Now that's an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And we want to celebrate the fact that he started at the garage. Yes, like all of us who completed tenders in our grandmother's coffee table.
Yeah.
Okay? But before we established a business, we bought houses and cars.
Security.
No,
Home.
stay home where you are starting. Secure the business so that it can be inherited. One day we would look back at that house and say the empire we now have in Catherine Street in Sandton was born in Soweto by Thami Banda, who chose against all odds to keep on reinvesting in this business, teaching us that investing in what we have is the only security of the future, than investing in ourselves when we don't have the guarantee to be alive in the future. Now that's entrepreneurship. That's entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
You don't trust yourself so much that you value yourself with the brand you wear, but you forget that it's somebody else's idea. What you're wearing is someone else's name,
Yeah.
and you've never met them.
True.
You know what I mean?
True.
So if you look at that concept, what are we telling the child? It goes back to the conversation that we were having. You are only approved if you look in a particular way. You are not approved by being yourself. So self-employment is the first killer of the future of South African economy. It feeds it every day. So you've got this hungry beast that only keeps quiet when it's been given a meal, but it's going to be growling tomorrow morning.
Exactly.
So you keep on looking for a piece of meal to feed this thing, right? And unfortunately, because that vicious cycle, and do you know what is that beast? It's called credit.
Hey, credit.
So you're feeding this beast because you can pay it. We don't realize that everything we're doing is fictitious. We realize when you are dead 2 years down the line, when your kids don't go to a private school, they start to go to a Model C school, to a public school, and eventually they can't go to university. Why? And yet they were going to Dubai for holidays.
But this is what needs to be taught, though. And in family homes, if you've never grown up in a family situation where finances have been an open conversation, or you've been taught how to manage finances and fight the credit, because that is where, when anyone starts, a young person starts getting a job, the first thing that they do is jump onto, okay, great, I can get credit card, I can do this, because you're trying to prove your financial score so that you can be able to get a car, so you can keep up with the Joneses. That is where the problem arises. And I think that it's important for these topics to be addressed in home situations over dinner, but then also the family dynamic is fizzling away in our current society, which is a huge issue. And you touched on it a little bit earlier.
Values. I'll go back to this. One of the greatest challenges in my value system, which I told you that I believe in God, I see God in everything that I've done. Do you know I've never got to understand what type of house Adam had? But I can assure you.
Adam and Eve from the
yeah,
Bible.
yeah. But I can assure you, Adam did not sleep in an open field. What happened when it was raining? What happened when it was wind? What happened when it was winter? Because seasons were all there. When he saw trees, it was up to him to see a chair out of that tree, a bench out of that tree, a bed out of that tree, and the shape of a house out of the same tree. Right? As much as it was also a shade.
Yeah.
Right? So, what we are not educating are values. What we are educating is information.
What would it take for that information to be filtered down to the places or the platforms that it needs to?
Let's restore all value systems, starting with, of course, family, which is quite challenging because family needs a lot of supporting structures. The first structure that I think, for society to get back to where it should be, the first thing that needs to change is the church. For me.
People have pulled away from church also.
And I don't want to get to the religious conversation, but the first thing that needs to be changed is the church. Ask me why. Where do we start spending on our societal needs and the fit-ins? Thursday to Monday. Thursday used to be a woman of prayer day.
Yeah, definitely.
Sunday used to be a church for us to go and we went to Sunday school, church, and then after that we had a family meal and all of those things and the week was discussed and the plans and uniforms are prepared and dad is going to work, mom is going to work, uncle going to work, whatever, right? But because that institution has replaced God with finance, you all think you are in there to be blessed for your next hustle.
Of course.
When the first fundamental issue was that we knew that it is hard for a rich man to enter heaven than it is for a camel to go through a needle's hole. We were taught that at Sunday school. That is not against riches. That is not against wealth. It is on principles that it is hard for a rich man to understand the mindset of giving and embracing others than it is for a camel to go. It is easier for a camel to go through a needle hole. So there are values that we've forgotten that I am blessed to be a blessing, right? Not blessed to go and shine.
But I think, okay, you're speaking about the value systems.
Yeah.
We need to filter these value systems out into society and ensure that they are instilled. And understand that 90% of family homes are broken.
How many people follow you on Instagram?
On Instagram, I don't know. I've got very few followers, but I'm not an Instagram person.
Okay, fine. So let's say
Facebook, TikTok, yes.
So Facebook, how many people will you follow? TikTok follow you, right? Okay.
Facebook, 7,000 odd.
Right.
Yeah?
Okay. So let's use a rule of just. So let's say 7,000, okay, and we use 2.5% of that, okay, so that would be around 350 people. Do you know you have an opportunity with the value system to at least influence 350 people?
Yes, I think.
Whom, if each shared one story of what you said with just one person, your influence will be on 700 people. The ones you don't know are away from the ones that are 7,000.
Yeah.
You just chose 350, which is just 2.5% of it. We don't want to be the first value.
We're afraid.
No.
You know, the fear part of what happens if this lands or what happens if this doesn't land. You know, it's like two sides of a coin.
So let me ask you.
That is where it happens.
All right. So if I lived my day every day by thinking that if I got into my car, I'll be in an accident, will I go anywhere? No.
Probably not.
So that's the thing that we've forgotten. In the value system, we knew that there's calculated risks. What are calculated risks? That I can surrender my child for 12 years with another person who is a parent the whole day and I call them a teacher, and all I measured, not the teacher on, but my child, were results.
Yeah.
No parent has ever sat down to measure the teacher.
Never.
Unless the child has failed.
Of course. Then
Right?
you come back.
We mostly measure our kids. That risk-taking is progression to the future. So when I was saying that it's difficult for me to have conversations with my children, is to tell them that nobody should be out here at 7, because all of us were having dinner at 7. And at 7 o'clock when we have dinner, nobody must be on the phone until 8 o'clock. And when we are done, somebody must be washing dishes, and it's not the helper and it's not your mom. All right? Do you know who I would look like? A tyrant.
A tyrant, yeah.
I will be called an emotionally abusive dad.
Yeah.
All right? Though I'm not beating anyone, but I look like an emotional abusive father. But how will you employ a better person who washes dishes if you've never washed yours?
Exactly.
How do you know that this is clean?
Exactly.
How do you know the standard of a clean house if you've never cleaned your bedroom? How do you know the standard of a well-made bed if you didn't make yours? Just because I can afford to pay for all these things you think you're entitled to it, to be a beneficiary of them, do you know that I measure them according to how I was taught?
Sure.
Right? Do you know how much conflict I have with my wife on how we measure these standards because she was taught differently and I was taught differently and we run one household now. You have a chairperson and the CEO arguing, and then I have the executive here telling me that no, you must keep on funding this process. No. When I'm talking about values, and these are things that shaped us, it's to know that the first thing that I do when I get out of bed is to make my bed. You are lucky you actually have the bed. You are lucky that you even have the bedroom in my house. I slept on the floor. And I'm not saying that you must be sleeping on the floor. That's why you have the bed.
Yes.
I shared the floor and the blanket with somebody. Sometimes they would pee. And I would be part of the crew that would be blamed for the wet blanket. Exactly. I'll be part of the crew that is punished to wash the blanket. I'll be part of the crew. So what were they teaching us there? They were not saying, yeah, my mom is abusive or my grandmother is abusive because my brother peed or my cousin peed and now we all have to wash the blanket. They said we shared the blame, we throw no one under the bus.
Yes.
Right? You spoke about being cancelled. We threw no one under the bus. Because if you lost your shoelaces at school, we knew that all of us tomorrow will be sat down and will be told, why are you went up, better tie your shoes proper. And you can't say to your mom, Ma, I didn't lose my shoelaces. And it's true, you didn't. But because of my brother who did. So before we even got to know what my mother would say, we will first look for shoelaces at school.
Yes.
By the time we got there, we will also say, we checked, we couldn't find them, right? So we are losing those values. And this is where I get frustrated to say, common things that we used to do, to say, I had a problem in my house over describing the family this way, saying, I'll start it from the bed. In bed, I'm not a husband.
Yeah.
I'm the boyfriend, the guy you met.
The freak in the sheets.
Do you know where I become a husband? Yeah. When I step out of my bed, I'm a husband and you are the wife. Because husband and wife talk about the policies of this house and no one hears them. We're not debating, we're talking about them.
Yeah.
So we're in the bedroom. You're dressing up, I'm brushing my teeth. We must teach these kids to wash windows. So Peggy's going to come through to wash windows and then we'll say, so and so must assist. So that he checks, and then he learns. Yeah, you are right. Yeah, these boys have been lazy these days. We're discussing policy here. Do you know when we open the door who we are? The roles change, mom and dad.
Yeah.
We are now parents. In a space of 5-10 minutes, we've occupied 3 roles. I've been a boyfriend, I've been a husband, now I'm becoming a mom and a dad. And why? Because we go to the bedrooms. Are you up? Hey, you must be up, you must go to school. Is your uniform ready? Right? As soon as I step out of the yard, I'm now a father in society because I'm a member of the community now.
Yes.
So issues of dustbins that are not collected and potholes start to affect me. We forget all these roles and their compartments because we don't have the values of the very first one. Right? It's okay to call your wife love in the front of your kids. That's good. You're teaching them how to appreciate their partners and all of the endearment. It's good, right? But don't forget the practicalities that make you who you are. Don't forget them. These days, we find a justifiable reason that money has parented our children better. Because I can afford to buy them PlayStation, I can afford to buy them a tablet, I can afford to buy them a smartphone, and then they can sit in compartments in the same house.
But it's also entitlement. I think the kids.
And entitlement starts by saying you are guilty of not being a parent.
So I'm trying to replace.
You're making up.
Yes.
You are making up. When the child comes to you and you are watching Thami season 3, hey, what are you looking for? So what is the child going to do? YouTube.
Yes.
You are aware that Thami season 3 is no under 18s. So watch it at night.
Exactly.
Why do you want to catch up during the day? Because you've got Sister Dimpo who cleans in your house. I'm not saying it is wrong. I'm saying look at the nucleus of what you are creating. You're right?
Yeah.
So if this kid is no longer with the teacher during the day and you're not with your boss during the day, you also want to take the Saturday and you throw it to TV and internet. You are being fed by TV. The child is being fed by internet. Then whatsoever was built on a Sunday in your teaching is never discussed.
It's becoming dysfunctional.
So the values need to be discussed properly. And you know what? Because our parents now have no mouth. Why? We are the ones who feed them. Like I don't have black text. What is that? I don't know about black text. I know that I am obliged to appreciate my parents.
Yes.
To appreciate them. That's not taxation. That's love in action. Whether my mother chooses to define it as black text or okumela ngondla mina angimondla uma wami ngiyamthanda uma wami, and part of loving her is sending money for her to buy groceries. I've never asked what she does with her pension money. That's her money. I didn't work in those days to access her pension. No. So I don't believe in those concepts. Because where I've traveled, where I've been, you'll be amazed on how many African values have been embraced by other societies, and we throw them away. We have a fancy thing now that is called nude beaches.
Right? But it's
But we used to go nude in the river.
Yes. I think it's the white culture.
No, it's not.
White culture is where nudity is a thing.
No, we blame people.
You think?
No, yes. I'll give you an example. We blame people. Hi, man. I don't know what we're going to coin this conversation. We blame people. We don't take account. We are not accountable. Let me give you an example. Who says in the news, and I'm glad you're in the media, who says in the news on Heritage Day, the following footage may disturb sensitive viewers. And then they show you maidens on the reed dance. Yeah. They never put that disclaimer. But half of the flesh is out.
Exactly.
Do you know why? And you find us, the slightly grown up and the elders in the house, if you are sitting with them saying, intombi zethu, you know. Why are they saying that? They are saying that because it appeals to that heritage.
Yes.
We've thrown it away. When you wear a mini skirt, because it's now designed by Thami, it's not beadworked. We want to rape you. But it's the same flesh that is exposed, right? So when I said brands mean nothing if you personify them without heritage. That's what I meant. We have a place here called Mai Mai. Akona wa Mai Mai, wa Mai Mai. Because the people who worked and stayed in those compounds, whenever they missed their wives, whenever they were beaten in those days of harsh labor and slavery, babekhala bathi maye maye ngiyabuyela futhi eGoli. Maye. Umaye lo ukuthi I'm exclaiming that I'm going to that place, but if I don't go, I have problems. Do you know that there is nothing in Zulu culture that says you must pay 11 cow to marry a woman? It was done by Sir Theophilus Shepstone. In African culture, we were not paying 11 cattle. But who is interested to research that heritage? To know that if in my house, all we had was farming land to grow pumpkins and meal, sometimes we would be charged a piece of land for the other family in order for them to grow crops. That could have been the lobola, bride price. That's why bebethi sicela isihlobo esihle. Already nizihlobo, kodwa kunesihle esisifunayo. Right? Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying values. Because when I talk about them from Christianity perspective or religion, you think, oh no, he's westernized. No, I'm not. I know the values of the African people. That's why I'm telling you, even if you go and you study December 16 as a holiday, before it was known as Day of Reconciliation, it was known as Dingan Day. And before you know it as Dingan Day, hey, I dare you to go and check what it was called. Because when you discover what it was called, it was actually a day that was celebrated by the Afrikaner community to say, God has given us a right to defeat these people, these savages who now need to be Christianized. And these are some of the things that make us to fear the factor that God is loving to us. We think is not African, right? That's what it was called before it was Dingan's Day. That's what it was called before it was called Day of Reconciliation. And what are we reconciling on the 16th? Because we don't discuss those issues, right? So what am I saying with these things? I'm not opening up politics. I'm saying the values.
I was about to ask you a lot of controversial questions based on that, but we're not going to go there.
No, the values are the ones that have been lost. Yeah. When I walked in here, I said, I'm not ashamed if the brand that I represent is not there. Because the first question is, where is my brand meant to be? Before I'm saying, it should be here. No, meant to be. Who consumes it there? And then somebody comes to me and says, no, but you don't invest in order for that brand to be there. And then I will tell you, do you know how much money you could be making by it being there?
Yes.
Right? So we don't have that mindset that teaches us heritage. We don't have the mindset that reminds us of ownership. And as a result, we lack accountability. If you don't have accountability, values are long gone.
But I also think that it's power of association. Who you associate with helps you learn particular things. Like right now we're having a conversation of this magnitude. And then we're going to put it out on air. A lot of people are going to sit and have a different way of thinking based on the things that you are saying right now. So it just takes one little thing to change the dynamic of a handful of people.
It takes one birdie to influence 30 people, to influence 10 people, to influence 5 people within your circle with a good thing.
Yeah.
Behavior is infectious. Behave well, and it's going to be okay. All right? Behave well, and you're going to infect other people. That's all. Be the guy who walks across and holds a grandmother to cross the street.
Yeah.
You lose nothing. Be a guy who stands up and goes to a grandmother's house when you know that she has no child who is your age to go and wash the windows. You lose nothing. When she says thank you, you gain everything.
Yeah.
But what we want to do, we want to hire a cleaning company to send it across so that we don't associate with the dirt, but we take ownership of a clean house. Get your hands dirty. Go to that child that stays next door, that is not having a mother who is able to bath the child because through depression, she has given herself to drugs and alcohol. Bath the child. Bath the child. Get the child's pajamas. Let her wake up in the morning and sees a clean child, a child in pajamas, and she says, it's Auntie Bertie who bought it for me. And then she starts to realize, I'm losing my child to society. She may change her behavior. We don't want to do that. We want to make a call. Foster care, please take this baby because the mother is not right. And we think we acted responsible. Never. We didn't. We didn't. We subcontracted ownership.
Wow. Very interesting way of looking at things. I love the way of thinking. I love Thami's way of thinking. Thank you so much, Thami. So another thing, let's jump onto. We took a bit of a break there
Sure.
to stretch our legs. But who's your favorite artist? All-time favorite artist?
Musician.
Okay. And what is your all-time favorite song?
Okay. My all-time favorite artist is Ray Perry.
Tell us about
No.
that.
It's Ray Perry.
Okay, Ray Perry.
It's
awesome.
Ray Perry.
Yeah.
There are many great artists that I love. Many great artists. I love Ray Perry, and the only reason why I love Ray Perry is because I grew up around him, being exposed to him, so I got to know the meaning and the understanding of how he writes. So the other artists that have touched me and done great stuff, I have not had an opportunity to talk to them to understand. So every song that they've sung and I've enjoyed is based on my personal interpretation. So Ray is the one.
And his favorite song would probably be from Ray Perry as well?
No, actually, the favorite song doesn't come from Ray Perry. And wherever he is, he might be angry with me. I do have favorite songs from him, but my favorite song, if I had to articulate it, it's from Luther Vandross, "The Impossible Dream."
Wow.
The Impossible Dream.
The Impossible Dream.
Yeah, just from the first line, to dream an impossible dream. Yeah.
Did that song inspire you in any sort of way? And has it helped on a bad day? Is that the song you go to?
No.
What do you go to on a bad day? What picks you up on a bad day?
What picks me up on a bad day is a very, very simple quote, all right? Because if I say scripture, you switch off. It says, we glory in tribulations, for in tribulations work, because tribulations work, patience, hope, and hope will never leave us ashamed.
Hope will never leave us ashamed.
Right? So when hard times come, we persevere in them because we know that they develop experience patience, and then patience, hope, and hope will never leave us ashamed. That's what I go through. On a bad day, that's what I would say to myself. Yeah.
Sure. And now tell us, what's the craziest thing you've ever done for love? And we're fast approaching the month of love.
Craziest thing I've done for love is proposing a woman that I'm married to without seeing her face.
How so?
I was working at Kai FM. She entered a competition. I just liked her voice. And I stole the details because they would say, stay on the line and then we take her details. I went to steal the details. I won't tell you the entire story, but I proposed to a woman for almost 3 months without seeing her face. And
where is she now?
She's my wife.
She's your wife?
Yes, she is.
If you don't believe in love, right? We don't believe in love. It's a thing.
She's my wife still.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Now, if there's one thing we can learn from that, is just go take the plunge, right?
Yeah, take the plunge.
My goodness. And then what keeps a relationship solid? What is the glue that keeps the love alive.
Accepting that all of us can fail and can do each other wrong. I'm the chief of failures. I'm the chief of wrongdoing, right? And in that, I'm not proud that I do wrong, but it makes me not to judge those who wrong me. It gives me an opportunity to work on myself.
Sure. When was the last time you walked into a church building?
Last Sunday.
Last Sunday. First Sunday.
Last Sunday. I was there on a crossover night, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was it? Touching base with God on a first Sunday?
I'll be breathless without God in any second. Yeah. So every minute, every second, every hour is God first.
Do you pray regularly? How often do you pray?
When I got exposed to the Bible the first time, even in Zulu, I love it in English because most of people had Bibles in English. The first line in the Bible says, "In the beginning, God." So in everything that I do, I try and begin with God, because if I don't begin with God, then nothing would happen, because God is a master of impossibilities.
Sure. If there's something we can learn from that, eh?
Yeah. In the beginning, God. So if you want to begin anything, begin with Him. And the lovely part, by the way, he's so clever. He names himself of all beginning things and all ending things. He's the Alpha and Omega. So if you want to begin something, begin it with Him. If you want to end it with Him, end it with Him.
Do you think that maybe that's why a lot of relationships don't last, because we don't introduce God to our significant other before we get into it, and then declare to Him when we leave the relationship?
I don't think it's
Is that got anything to do
No,
with it?
I think you only think of hijacking God during the day when you make vows. So you hijack Him on that day, but you don't want Him to be part of the foundation and the principles of what governs your marriage. You just hijack Him on the day when you do vows because you want to wear a white gown and some guy wants to look good too.
Sure. Truth? Much? There's so much truth in your statements. But okay, now you...
I think these are the parts that I would write as clips for myself too.
Right, I feel like I don't want to ask these questions anymore.
No, go on. No,
what's the one thing you can't leave home without? Apart from your cell phone and your wallet.
Oh, so we're looking at the tangible ones?
Yes.
Christ. I can't leave home without Him. He's the way, the truth, and life.
Sure.
So without Him, I have no way. Without Him, I have no truth.
I wasn't expecting that, but I love that answer.
Christ. I can't live without Him. Can't. I can't.
Hey, Thami's taking us to church.
No, I'm not taking you to church. I'm exposing you to Thami. Yeah.
And what would you tell your 10-year-old self now that you are at your big age?
Maybe let me answer it differently. Do you know that every time I go to the mirror, I still see myself 6?
Really?
Yes.
How so?
The first picture I have of my life story is a 6-year-old picture. And it's the greatest memory I have is when I was 6 years, because there was a name that I was given and it got into an ID only when I was 6. I was always Thami when I was born, but not always Thami. I was first Sbusiso when I was born. It never made it to the baptism certificate, because in those days we didn't have a birth certificate first. We had a baptism certificate. It needed to be endorsed by a reverend if you were born at home, not in hospital. So I had Sbusiso as my first name. My mom gave me the name Sbusiso, so I use it on my signature. It never got into my ID. Thamsanqa was given when I was a week old by my grandmother's sister, who still claims that she needs royalties. Every time when she meets me, she says, to Thami.
Yeah.
Right? And then when I got to school, the teacher refused that I should be named Thamsanqa as the only name. They said I needed a second name, and then my grandmother just translated Thamsanqa into English, and the name that is not commonly known, it's not commonly known and mostly abused by my wife is Lucky.
Lucky.
So Lucky.
Gotta love your wife for that.
Lucky, right. Yeah.
Must be your lucky day.
Yeah, so what would I tell myself as a 10-year-old? I think I'll tell myself as a 6-year-old is that there's nothing wrong with you. Actually, I had tears in my heart saying that. There's nothing wrong with you. You're okay. You're okay. If they judge you wrong, know that you're different. There's nothing wrong with you. That's what I'll tell myself.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the best advice you've ever received in your lifetime?
There are many. I've had many mentors. I don't want to call it an advice. I want to call it a comment. Okay? 3 years ago, I had a beautiful dream of my grandfather. Beautiful dream. He's the closest man I've ever wanted to be like on an earthly format. Died when I was 11. And you know, I dreamt him coming home in our old house, and I said, yo, you know, you've been away for so long. Actually, people were saying you are dead.
Yeah.
And this is, oh, really? And I said, yeah. So I was showing him these pictures of other siblings. You know, so and so, look how old he is now, and he's got kids. Look at the kids. And I had this huge album when I was sharing pictures. And then he eventually got tired. And he said, take me to bed. So I walked him to bed. Then he held my hand this way. This isn't a dream. And I said, I'm glad you're back.
Yeah.
Right? And with excitement and teary, but, you know, excitement in a dream. Then my grandfather made this comment. He said, I've always known that I have a son in you. And I said to him, but I'm your grandchild. You have sons. He said, those are my boys, my male kids. Sons are the ones that I know that can keep the track record, the legacy, and the foundation of what the family stands for. And that's what you are to me.
Sure.
I woke up. I've always known I have a son in you.
That's a huge role to fulfill.
Yeah, I was told by a man who passed on probably, I'm 33, 34 years ago.
Sure.
Yeah. So from that day onwards, I started to learn that a surname is not an entitlement, but a responsibility. You live to be an ambassador for it every day. It's the only thing that they entrust you with. The name is yours, the surname is entrusted upon your shoulders. So carry it with responsibility and accordingly.
Does the same apply for females, or is it just a male thing? Now I'm going to be, trying to get two sides of
the question was based on me alone. But if I had to advise my daughters, I would say carry this one with pride when you get in there. But uplift the one you find with the values you've learned from us. So if my daughter made my in-laws shine, I would be the happiest person on earth, even if it came at an expense of my surname, because the seed is not meant to benefit one person. It's meant to benefit anybody who is hungry. And I would have done my job from a seed level. Anyone who harvests it should be pleasured or appreciated. That's it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love that.
I don't know, but
Very
that's my
interesting.
thought. I never thought about it deeper, but yeah. That's how I would look
I
at it.
love how you think on your feet. It shows such authenticity.
I spend time alone.
Unfiltered. And that works for me. Which is why it's so fitting.
Yeah.
And what are you currently pursuing? What can we look forward to? 2024?
Yeah.
What new prospects can we look forward to? What's new? What can we look forward to? I know we associate you with the brand Macallan. I'm going to bring it back to there. So what can we expect? I probably would mention brand Macallan last, not because it's not important, but because the nature of the conversation we've been having is not involving the brand directly. But personally, want to cry less in 2024. People don't know that, want to cry less in 2024. I've cried a lot in my life, so I want to cry less in 2024, and that's on a personal level. If tears should come out, they should be of joy. From a professional perspective, humbled in 2024 to be part of a brand that is 200 years young. Yeah.
The Macallan is 200 years young, and they've done an exceptional work. There's great heritage in there. Just to be associated as half a comma of that great legacy and heritage is inspirational enough and humbling enough in my soul. So I'm looking forward to smiling in 2024, and I'm looking forward to many 200 years young celebrations. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I must say that I am so honored to be sitting here on this couch with you. I'm excited.
You're ending it on an emotional note.
Thank you so much for taking the time out to afford me the courtesy of sitting here with you. It means the world. And to bigger, better things, I do wish you health, wealth, blessings, all the goodness that comes with the year ahead. And
Yeah, sure, it should.
And to the Unfiltered with Birdie, the brand is definitely going to grow and grow and grow and grow.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, for sure.
Any last words, Thami?
Firstly, I wish your your platform Unfiltered with Birdie lots of success. I'm hopeful that we will be sitting in 2044 and look at 20 years of its existence when it has branched off to those days. I don't know whether it would be digital magazines or whatever it would be, greater platforms where people in the globe will be celebrating it. Yeah, I think my last words would be, as a people, let's be patient. Let's be patient a little bit. It will go a long way. 30 seconds delay on a traffic light saves a car accident. 3 times checking before you cross the road saves us another body in a coffin. A moment of thinking upon a rash decision saves us potential suicides and all these things, right? Let's be patient a little bit and just remember that all of us are fragile in different ways.
Wow. Thank you.
I think that's what you should add. That's the interview. Actually, the interview is that part of questions. The other parts are your own benefit. But
much.
I think the interview was actually the questions. I feel better about it.
No. We're throwing it all in.
You will find a way. No, I don't want.
But either way,
yes, sis.
Thank you to Just Badela. We are at Just Badela.